to speak. As a Texas mom and a Texas taxpayer, I want to urge you to completely reject the new APUSH U.S. History Framework and exam products owned by the College Board. As a Texas mom and taxpayer, I urge you to reject this 21st century Common Core philosophy of teaching our U.S. history, and instead giving our teachers the flexibility of the previous 5-page AP framework that gives them the opportunity to teach a knowledge-based AP U.S. history. APUSH is a radical departure from what our Texas teachers are accustomed to. And another great concern I have is the fact that in order for our children to graduate from a Texas high school, they're required to pass the Texas U.S. History End of Course State Exam that is based on our Texas TEKS that are traditional, foundational, and knowledge-based. If the APUSH AP framework, it's a completely different philosophy of education from what is required by law to teach in Texas. How will the teacher have the ability to teach both ways of teaching? One exam being knowledge-based and the other being more subjective-based. To many parents, like myself, we are concerned for our children being used basically as guinea pigs. Because I ask you, where has this framework been piloted and proven successful? And who are the people behind this framework? David Coleman, head of the College Board, is known as the
Go ahead, finish your thought, a couple of sentences.
He
you
is,
have questions, or maybe have questions.
Great. He is the mastermind, we know, of the Common Core national standards, and has said that he will be aligning the ACT, the SAT, and the GED to the Common Core. So what is his philosophy of education? And I urge you to take that into consideration, since in Texas, HB 462 was passed that makes the Common Core philosophy of education illegal in our state.
Okay, board members. I forgot to. Mr. Rowley.
Madam Chair, could I ask a question to staff related to Ms. Linahan's testimony? My question is, and maybe Monica, this is directly to you. Obviously it's not an agenda item today, but if the board were so inclined to require that the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills be covered in the various AP classes, or at least the core classes, if we went through the proper rulemaking steps to do so, would we have the authority and the ability to do that?
So you have approved a variety of AP courses in many subject areas as courses that can satisfy graduation requirements. Those courses are listed in the Texas Administrative Code in those same chapters where you have your essential knowledge and skills. So given that you've got that rulemaking in there, it seems as though, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, if you wanted to add requirements to what you already have in administrative rules, you would have the authority to do that.
Mr. Anderson?
That's correct. You currently have AP U.S. History as a course that counts towards high school graduation. You could say AP History plus these other things, that you have to identify them. And the assumption I'm making, or the logical assumption, is that they can still teach all of the AP things that are necessary for colleges then to grant the credit.
So then if we were so inclined, again, we'd have to put it on the agenda and go through the rulemaking authority or process, which we're not able to do today, obviously, then we could include as a requirement that if an AP course is going to count towards high school credit, that the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills would have to be covered in that course?
Yes.
Mr. Mercer, and then Ms. Ratliff, and Ms. Knight.
I have a couple questions for, I'll get to Mr. Rowley's thing last. APUSH, people don't know, it's AP is Advanced Placement, and UHS is the United States History. right? And you're referring to what, up till this May, there was a 5-page college board document that every educator in the U.S. got. Well, now, beginning in 5 weeks from now, it's a 98-page document. Much more, is that true?
Yes, it is.
So what you have online, a document you have in the framework is a 98-page document, where it was a 5-page document. Again, what happened, what we've always traditionally had for all states, and traditionally, I think when Mr. Rowley was referring to that whatever state, South Carolina, Idaho, Oregon, whatever, they had their standards, and that topical document kind of wrote on top of those standards. Board members, and I apologize, I know you're standing here, if you turn to page 10, the document you just got, you'll see a couple, it's pretty easy, both of them are bolded. And he talks about beginning May of 2015, well, that's the first time it's test be offered. It says every AP exam question will be rooted in these learning objectives framework. Followed that says, beginning with May 2015, no U.S. history exam question would require students to know historical context that falls outside this outline. Now, to me, that means basically the 98-page document, that is the framework that you study from, and things will not come outside of that. We'll be discussing more today as we go on, but this is of my concern, and Ms. Linahan, I want to tell you something, that if Mr. Rowley would offer that in September as an amendment to our rules saying that we have 5 unit course exams that all kids must take, English 1 and 2, biology, algebra, and U.S. history. And I am very proud of what this board has done for standards. But if you offer an amendment that says kids in classes, they're taking AP history, but they also must take our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, sir, you will have an immediate second on that. And that'd be a great win for Texas. Thank you.
Mr. Ratliff and then Mrs. Snyder.
Question for staff, Monica or David. Rather than going through subject by subject, is there a way in the upper portion of the administrative code to say, notwithstanding any other section of this code, any AP course must teach the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills in order to be a substitute for a class?
So you have 2 other places in the administrative code where you have more general requirements. You've got your new Chapter 74 graduation requirements, and so Chapter B, where you do have some general requirements that would address the graduation courses that are used toward high school graduation specifically. You've also got in Chapter 74, Subchapter A, the required curriculum, and there may be an opportunity to include language there that would address and that's where you may recall you've got the courses that districts are required to offer, and so that might be a place where you could add language to clarify for districts what they're required to do when they implement those courses.
The reason I ask is I don't want to take this piece by piece every time the AP redoes something. I just want to make a blanket statement. If you want to take these classes in Texas, and if you want to get that college credit, that's fine, but we are proud of our standards, and we have developed our standards, and you got to teach our standards, period. You can take their test, but you got to learn our standards. So,
Mr. Ratliff, you can do that. I think it would probably be better drafting, and you always want to think about, somebody's going to read this 5 years from now and not remember the conversation. To go to each of those sections where you have recognized an AP course as counting towards high school graduation and say, but you must teach all of the TEKS at each of those, and then somebody's going to go to that course and they'll see all the requirements. They might miss that other thing in Chapter 74.
so the way we do TEKS, we take it up subject by subject. We don't have to reopen the whole TEKS discussion for every subject if we want to do this. Can we just affect that portion? Because I don't think any of us want to go back and start reopening TEKS that are already adopted and throw the whole thing into chaos just to insert this new requirement.
I think you the rule that says AP U.S. history counts and curriculum for it, that's not the right word, is what the College Board decides is a specific rule. So you could have those however many rules they are, and then insert some boilerplate in each one, and then it's all there for that one course. Let me mention you have mirror sort of rules for IB courses as well.
So, Madam Chair, I know you don't prefer for members to ask for agenda items for future meetings, but this is a biggie, and I think we're going to probably have 14 other members that feel the same way I do, or 13 or 12, in addition to the 3 that have already spoken. If we can get this on an agenda item sooner rather than later, so if there are areas that we can't fix here that need to be fixed legislatively, we at least know what can and can't be fixed, so we can get this fixed ideally before the kids come back in, well, they can't do it before they come back in August, but as soon as possible.
I've already started conversations with staff, so.
Perfect, thank
But
you.
it will be a several month process because discussion, first reading, second reading, because it is rulemaking, so just FYI. Can't be done in one meeting, but
Can we, if we have a 2/3 vote, can we do something that takes immediate effect, or do we still have to go through first and second reading?
You still have to go through the rulemaking process because you have to allow for public comment.
You can go, you cannot do discussion, but you must do first reading because that gets it published in the Texas Register for comment, and then you must do second reading because that's the actual rule adoption. You don't have to do discussion. You generally,
Good
you
to know.
always do, but you don't have to do that.
If we can put this on the escalator instead of the stairs, that would be
depends on
great.
how many public hearings we want to offer. So, Mrs. Knight.
I need some information, Madam Chairman, and I think I'm just gonna ask staff to address it for me. I get the issue about our TEKS being taught, but what I'm confused about is Common Core, which I thought did not cover social studies. So could somebody explain to me how Common Core is getting into social studies under the AP umbrella? I'm not following that.
Is that a question for our testifier? I think she, did you mention
Anybody who can
that?
answer it.
Okay, Ms. Linahan, you mentioned it, so would you like to answer that?
Well, Common Core is more than a set of national standards. It's a philosophy of education. It's the more subjective philosophy versus what our Texas TEKS. Our TEKS are more knowledge-based, fact-based, and that can be tested right and wrong. What this is doing is opening up a more subjective philosophy of education. And if you look at the strategies and tactics of how Common Core was put into 45 states across this nation without anyone realizing it, and you look at the people who are behind it, like David Coleman, who is now the head of the College Board, who is aligning our national assessments, SAT and ACT, with that Common Core philosophy of education, then by virtue of those exams, our children here in the state of Texas, you have teachers and school districts who are using that philosophy of education to teach versus the knowledge, fact-based philosophy that our Texas TEKS are to be. And if you look at who David Coleman is, we think that he's the mastermind. That's what you hear in the media. Actually, you have to look at his mother, Elizabeth Coleman, and there's all kinds of video of her out there talking about how she believes in fundamentally transforming our nation into a democracy. She says that we are a democracy. Well, we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And I believe that that's why they're trying to take out our founding fathers, because our founding fathers warned us of the danger of a democracy and why we are a constitutional republic. And we can see it in full view right now with the children that are the influx of illegal minors who are coming in, and they're getting rights to an education before we are as citizens. And that's the danger. So I urge all of you to look at this as more than just a procedural, we'll put this into, into words, into law. Let's look at who the people are behind this and the strategies and tactics that they're using to push it in.
Let me ask my question
Mrs. Stein.
another way. I think we would probably have other testifiers on this issue. So if somebody could come up and just give me a specific example out of the AP booklet as to how Common Core is infiltrating social studies, I think I'll have a better understanding. I mean, I just heard about this Wednesday, so I'm going to have to do some own research. But I just wanted to have a feel for what the issue is beyond the teaching of our students.
All right, Mr. Mercer?
Well, just to reiterate again, what I understood Mr. Rowley was talking about, Mr. Radcliffe, an agenda item for the fall. We can discuss this, and if I understand it, that'd be what I would call the Texas Hammer, where at least we want to make sure in any class, and of course, the broad would be not just AP U.S. history, but it could also be, this is the first of 34. There's AP classes coming out. So there's 33 other ones coming out, like government and economics. So again, if that's an agenda item, you have my full support. I know, Ms. Linahan, you're correct, there's another avenue, but if we can at least have some sort of hammer saying that, in our educators, even though we have a process to go through, I think we can fully communicate that, we're moving that route. We're in the classroom beginning 5 weeks from now, and again, my concern is, I don't believe our educators have enough time. This is changing from May till now. They got 5 weeks left to get this back and to tie a framework and try to tie it to the standards. You know, if I had a dream, it would be simply this, that Common Core, like they did in the SAT, which they said is Common Core SAT, the Common Core, the AP history, they would wait 1 year. And for a 5-page document to go to 98, I think it may need some more vetting too. But if I had a goal today, it'd be twofold. Number one, Mr. Riley's recommendation that we put in there that you will have our AP standard, our Texas standards. And secondly, to kindly ask AP and just to say, please, hold this off for 1 year. Whatever we finished with last May, nationwide, can wait. And one last thing you should know, and I'll stop, Madam Chairman, that the prediction is this coming fall there'll be 450,000 sophomores and juniors taking AP U.S. history. 46,000 will be out from a place called Texas. So 10% of that will be us. And that's why this is so important. And, politically I have a real concern about it, but also in terms of my educators, I don't see how they can get ready in 5 weeks to teach this class. Thank you, Ms. Linahan.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much, Ms. Linahan.